This video is sponsored by viewers like you. Generous supporters over on our Patreon such as Sawtooth44, Kyle Baker, and The Neighbor are a big reason that we are able to make content such as this. Thank you to anyone who decides to support us directly, and with that, onto the video.
Welcome back, lads, to Dan Speaks About Halo Infinite. Now, it's been a bit of a while since I last talked about the game, and there's been quite a few content drops that have happened since that talk. If you didn't know, we have a new series called Inside Infinite, which at the end of every month or so will provide interviews from one team working on Halo Infinite and supply us some information about what they've been doing on the game, and just some extra things like weapons, gameplay additions, stuff like that. Now, I already covered one from the Art Graphics and Live team, but since then, we've had 3 or 4 new additions to that roster. We've had the Sandbox team, we've had the Campaign team, we've had the Audio team, and just a couple days ago, we had the PC Specialists, the most current team to be interviewed for Inside Infinite. Now, I was planning on making videos on each one as they came out, but as it just turned out, I didn't think there was enough information in each one that warranted a whole video. I'm not the type of person who can just zoom in onto a single pixel, which may be a fly, and go, hey, maybe drones are returning in Halo Infinite. That's not me. I can't make 10 minutes out of that. I have the utmost respect for people who can. So I've been saving all this information, been writing it down, and I've been saving it for one big video when enough content exists for me to warrant, well, putting something out. So here we are, we've got 4 Inside Infinites to cover, and I'm going to give you all the information that I've collected, plus some extra things that I've forgotten to talk about. I hope this video will just serve as a big collection of information that people can come to and see what's been going on and compare it to what we've seen previously. And as you can probably tell, it's completely unscripted, which means I'm gonna be a rambling lunatic, so you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm breaking this video down into sections. It won't be by team, but it'll be about subject. It'll all be really easy to understand, I swear. So, without further ado, let's get on to it. Settings and PC! There is a lot of special PC setting stuff that I just don't understand. Listen, if I cared about settings and this sort of stuff, I wouldn't be playing on console. But I do understand that settings are really important to a lot of people, so I will indeed be going through them here. And I hope you can glean some information that my little pea brain can't. One of the things that's been shown off is Halo Infinite supports widescreen, and ooh, you know what? It looks amazing. It's really, I might even get myself a widescreen screen just to support this, just so I can get that experience. And it looks like a lot of hard work went into making it work. The team took into consideration what's going to appear on all screen resolutions, and this includes cutscenes. So for example, if you go on a standard screen resolution, the cutscenes have to take into account what you can see there. But if you're on widescreen, then the cutscenes should stay the same, but you'll be seeing a lot more of what's going on around in the world. And it's not just going to squish or stretch the cutscenes out just to fit your screen. It's, like I said, a lot of thought has been going into it. And it'll support all the standard resolutions from 32:9 to the normal one to 4:3 if that's your creative vision. They talked about PC crossplay and cross-progression. So you'll be able to connect with people and your friends from Xbox onto PC, and if you've got a file on PC, you can go onto Xbox and everything will carry over. Your armor, I presume your save data, anything like that is gonna go from Xbox to PC without any problems. They also talked a bit about how ranked will take into account who you're paired with, and it seems instead of basing it on who's playing on what machine, it's gonna be taking into account on how you're playing it. So for example, keyboard people on Xbox, because apparently that's a thing now, will be paired with keyboard people on PC more commonly, and controller people will be paired more commonly together. And in the background, I have all the settings that you'll be able to scroll through and change. Look at them, take them in. I don't know what any of them mean. I hope you do, and I hope you're liking what you see. That being said, Halo Infinite is actually being built with PC in mind first, which is why we're getting all these settings options and resolutions and such, and also why we're actually getting quite a few of them into the console version as well. For example, FOV sliders will actually be in the console version, so you can zoom in and zoom out. I assume that's what it does on console, if that's your thing. I think you can tell. I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. I just want to cover all bases. There was also a brief chat about Infinite will have its own anti-cheat that will monitor player behavior instead of data. And currently, the team do have plans to include more settings options as the game continues, so like I think I've mentioned in previous videos, there is reference of post-game support there, and it's including the more technical side rather than just content updates. And that concludes settings for now from me. Gameplay! One of the first things that's talked about that I think is really interesting was the dance. it was actually pretty something to see them go into almost the science of how a Halo combat encounter should go, that a player should feel like the win or loss was entirely down to them. In fact, Joseph Staten himself goes into more detail on his own dance encounter. His dance, yeah, Joseph Staten's dance encounter. He says, and I quote, "For grizzled Spartan veterans, this should be a familiar scene. Imagine a Forerunner interior, a timeless metallic vault with soaring ceilings. It's quiet, empty, except for a pair of hunters, shields up, shoulder spikes twitching, blocking your path forward. What to do? That's easy, I said to myself, the first time I fought hunters in Halo Infinite. Bait them, get them to charge, then step aside, pivot, and direct as much firepower into their exposed, wormy backsides as you can before they turn and turtle. But when I tried these classic dance steps, the hunters had something else in mind. As expected, one of the hunters charged, exposing its weak spot, but by the time I'd pivot to face it, however, it had already pivoted to face me. That's odd, I thought. Must be a bug. I tried the dance step again. Same result. Except this time, the second hunter filled my face with fuel rod projectiles, sending me scrambling for cover. Crouched behind a Forerunner pillar, shields fried and health deep in the red, I had a quick think. What's different? Hunters turn faster, okay. Assume this isn't a bug. What's the game trying to tell me? And what new dance moves have I got? As another volley of enemy fire rattled my virtual head inside my virtual helmet, I remembered I have equipment. Specifically, in the case of more reactive hunters, I have a grapple shot, which means I'm faster and more mobile too. I don't want to spoil your own fun of experimentation with a detailed description of what happens next, but suffice it to say, the grapple shot didn't cheese my encounter with the hunters, it deepened it. Simultaneously made me feel more powerful and the hunters more intelligent. We all knew the rules had changed, but the hunters weren't going to let me dance on their graves without a fight. This is just one example from a single encounter, but for me it encapsulates what's so exciting about the totality of the work that Quinn, Tim, David, Brian, Ellen, Kevin, and the entire Sandbox team have done to deepen and expand the Halo combat toolkit. It's great to feel their respect for the legacy. It's even better to experience how they've improved it. And that's Joseph Staten talking about his dance. It's actually pretty interesting that the teams are taking into account how players approach things and how enemies and weapons should approach them. It's the classic case of making sure things are fun to shoot and be shot by. So good that they're focusing on that. Like I've said before, Halo 5's combat is entirely about different speeds of killing. Everything is hyper focused to work for the competitive scene. For this, it seems more like making sure that the campaign works as it is, rather than the campaign work to match a competitive shooter, which, God bless, I far prefer. They also talk about Halo Infinite having a low skill floor, but a high skill ceiling. Weapons and equipment aren't made to win fights or survive, it's down to the player on how well they use them, which again goes into utility and how I prefer that all these weapons and equipment are more so like how well they used are in the player's hands, rather than, oh, this is the kill you gun, or the kill you equipment. It's good, like I said. It's good. We also have confirmation the team is ready and prepared to edit the sandbox day one according to player feedback, so if a weapon works just a little too well or a little too underpowered, we'll have someone working on that to fix it. This indeed includes equipment balancing along with weapons. So, I don't know, maybe if the drop wall is too powerful or stays up too long, or if the grapple shot recharges too quickly or too slowly, there'll be edits there. They actually had a really interesting talk about what they're looking for with balancing. One thing I will quote again is someone said, "When getting that feedback, it's nice to be present to dig into the root cause of the frustration. The mongoose sucks because it's too slow, can be a lot of things. Is the acceleration too slow? Does it lose too much momentum when turning? Is its top speed too slow? Does it lose too much momentum when landing? Does it have too wide of a turn radius? Once we understand the real ask, we measure that against the design goals we have for the vehicle." Again, pretty interesting, just confirms that their attention really is on making sure that everything works in this vast sandbox. Also, they talk about they have a dedicated team for the PC balancing, making sure everything works with PC controls. The Sandbox team is currently working on fixing launch bugs and issues, but some are working on future content already. We have confirmation on new vehicles and equipment down the line, so in content updates we might be seeing, I don't know, maybe the Spectre will come back. But I'm really sorry, lads. I think I got your hopes up a little in the previous video. In an Ask 343 video, we did get confirmation there will be no playable elites, and that is, I think, a dramatic blow. I'm actually pretty upset about that. I think playable elites add so much more variety into the multiplayer. It makes Halo more distinct, I think. You have so many just sci-fi shooters of sci-fi men running around, but having elites on the battlefield just, like I said, it spices things up. And even if you don't play as them, I think just having the option for the player base that is there is so much more better than just ignoring them. But as it turns out, there are no plans for playable elites currently. I don't know if that means they have plans to add them in later, who knows. I hope they do. I really hope at some point we just get an elite-based content drop. We also get confirmation that dual wielding will not be returning either, which once again, I miss dual wielding. A lot of weapons might not have worked by themselves, but dual wielding made them viable. Like the Spiker and SMG, I would say by themselves, typically kind of suck. But once you have like another weapon in your hand, it completely changes how you can approach combat scenarios with them. Dual wielding just increased the sandbox. Not having it back is yet another blow, and it's a big shame, but we have to move on. Speaking of weapons. Weapons! Let's talk about damage types for a moment. I'm immediately confident because they address the main issue with Promethean weapons. They don't do anything specific. They're just human weapons with glow effects, nothing special about them. They're awkwardly slotted into the back and forth between projectile and plasma. They've decided to really work on weapons having specific roles and utilities for certain areas, so there isn't just a few guns that exist to kill better than other. Halo 5's problem rectified. They say they have some surprises to reveal involving damage types to come later, and I really hope they mean that they've finally found a place for hardlight weapons to exist. I don't know what else it could mean. Like, are they going to introduce a whole new damage type, maybe? Maybe we'll get, like, fire weapon damage types or something? I'm not too certain. I can only imagine Promethean weapons are being rebalanced. Unless there's no Prometheans? Maybe that'll be a video at some point. The teams also talk about wanting to further define rule sets for kinetic and plasma, as they've had loose rules. I'm not sure about that. I always felt it was pretty clear. Human guns for meat, Covenant guns for shield. How can you do any more detail than that? It's pretty obvious what both guns are meant for. I am curious on what they'll deliver with it, but I have an eyebrow raised and a big on my lips. What does that mean? We also have a little look at the new Needler, and ooh, wonderful, beautiful, as you'd imagine. We actually have a few new weapon screenshots as well. The Needler, I'm just going to say, I think it looks wonderful. And here's the battle rifle. This is a better look from what we got from the trailer, which was just a head-on look at the weapon. This profile, you know what, it looks stunning. It feels like the Bungie era model with a 343 era skin, which works, I think. I think it really works. In my opinion, the battle rifle looks stunning. We also get a better look at the Bulldog shotgun. It's fast firing and fast loading. We actually have a little bit of a discussion on what the Bulldog does, which I'll quote now. We have felt that the shotgun playstyle has been underrepresented in previous Halo titles, particularly in multiplayer. We found that there are a lot of players that want to be that in-your-face CQC frontliner, but have never had a more readily available, less powerful, but still effective shotgun that still allowed them to play that role frequently across the multiplayer experience. This is essentially the player story genesis of how the Bulldog came to be. So that's pretty interesting. The Bulldog is not a power weapon like the shotgun of old could be considered. It's something that's meant to be readily accessible and usable, but not absolutely killer at one very specific tiny range. But I do think it's strange they didn't just include the Mauler if they wanted this, though. The Mauler is such a great close-range weapon, yet again, like, doubly effective because you can dual-wield it. I'm not sure why they didn't bring it back, maybe because you just can't dual-wield it. And I know a lot of people are upset about the loss of the classic shotgun. The Bulldog is growing on me, though, and I would like the classic shotgun back, and I think 343 have hinted that in a future content drop, we will most likely be seeing the classic shotgun return. Moving on to new weapons, we got the Commando Rifle. From this angle, it's another weapon that's growing on me more. It does look a bit more Halo. And following that, we actually have confirmation of the Hydra returning. I love this new Hydra. It looks like this Halo 5 weapon was sent back in time and Bungie redesigned it for Halo 3. I love it. It's perfect. It's just blocky, angular, no real, no unnecessary details. It's perfect. I love it. And the fact that the Hydra's returning, you know what? I do think it was one of the more interesting weapons that Free for Free has introduced, so I think it's welcome to come back. There is actually some talk about weapons we don't get big fancy screenshots for, like the campaign team that the Ravager has gone through a little change since we last saw it to make it a more unique launcher. If you've forgotten, the Ravager is this. It's a brute banished weapon that launches fast-moving, almost grenade-like projectiles. It feels like a replacement for the concussion rifle. It's got a really nasty knife on the end for increased melee damage, and just to confirm, every weapon with a blade on the end will do increased melee damage. So I'm actually interested to see what will come of the Ravager in the future. And another weapon that we don't get a good look at, but we can see has changed, is the Sidekick. The Sidekick was the pistol that was introduced in Halo Infinite. We saw a bit of use of it in the demo, and a lot of people complained because it didn't look quite Halo enough. It does seem just like standard military, it could be in any game. But I'm pretty sure a lot of you will be happy, because the icon that we see to represent the Sidekick is in fact a brand new model. I don't know how it's gonna look in the hands of the player right now, but it looks like it's got an underslung weight, or maybe this is some kind of laser pointer to increase targeting. I don't think it'll actually help in gameplay, but just something fancy to have on it. I like the silhouette we've got here. I think it definitely feels more at home at Halo than what we had previously. And we do have confirmation that this isn't just an attachment to the Sidekick, this is just how the new Sidekick will look. So there you go. That there is the silhouette of the new pistol. We also do get a hint that maybe the classic Magnum will be returning in a future content drop. We're not no 100% confirmation on that, but I would be genuinely surprised if it didn't happen. I mean, hell, we got it in Halo 5. Returning to screenshots though, we actually get a look at the sniper rifle from head-on, and we can see that it has a blue screen instead of green, which slightly disappoints me. I absolutely miss how the sniper's scope looked in the original trilogy, but you know what? I think this sniper still looks great. The body of Halo 5 with, I believe, the scope of reach. Stunning. But indeed, we do get a completely new weapon. Here is the Banished Skewer. The sound guys introduced this weapon, and we actually get some sound for it. I'm not really sure what this weapon's gonna do. It might be a sniper, it might be an anti-vehicle weapon, hell, it might be both. It's just implied it's gonna shoot these massive javelins. And, you know what, it might just skewer people from long range, it might just destroy vehicles, who knows, I can't wait to get my hands on it. Looks stunning, looks perfectly banished. I could see the characters from Halo Wars 2 using this thing, it looks beautiful. Let's move on to the equipment. Here's some nice art for the grapple shot and a better look at it. We also get one of the teams talking about how useful it is as a utility, and I think we can glean that from what we've seen in the demo. If you remember, the Chief uses this to scale this wall and approach the Shade turrets from behind, but it turns out there was actually another way up that Chief could have just walked and been in direct line of sight of the Shade turret. So using this, you can approach combat encounters in a whole number of different ways and use it to catch that Shade turret by surprise, as the player did in the demo, and used it to a supreme effect by grabbing those fusion coils and tossing it at the Shade turret. And just further confirmation, equipment is earned through combat or scavenging the environment. I do wonder if this means players can loot bodies for equipment, and is it going to be more of a Halo 3 or a Halo Reach deal? I assume Halo 3. One of the team also says the equipment behaves the same during campaign and multiplayer, but they do mention that there may be some minor changes between the two modes in terms of acquiring them. Guess this means that the grapple hook you'll always have in the campaign, you'll have to find around in multiplayer. It could also mean that sprint's a pickup. You can see I'm still hopeful. We also get a better look at the drop wall. Surprisingly, it's UNSC in Origin, which does explain the orange appearance for it. I was expecting it to be a banished piece of equipment, but nah, it's UNSC. And I do like the little piece of equipment that we can see here that will deploy the drop wall. A lot of detail went into it, some nice art as well. It's also talked about that Halo 3 was an inspiration for how equipment's gonna work, and thank God it was. Like I've said, Halo 3 has, I think, the best combat loop, and the best third combat utility being its equipment. Reach's loadouts were a little weird that it was just attached to the player. I would have preferred that if you could just find it around the map, and you know what? Halo 3, you could just find that around the map. And it turns out Infinite's going to be doing the exact same, so good on Infinite. Speaking earlier of throwable fusion cores, we actually do get a name to thank for that, and it's the same man who made grav lifts and man cannons, which, now that I say it, doesn't surprise me. Kevin Stocker. They also confirmed what I predicted in the earlier video, that different fusion coils will do different types of damage. Banished fusion coils for shields, human fusion coils for explosives. And you can see it here when Chief throws the banished fusion coil at the Shade. It doesn't really explode, it just takes the shields out. Whereas here, they're very clearly just exploding. Let's move on to the next phase of the arsenal. Vehicles. There's a few things that they talk about. The teams talk about how they offer a new way to traverse the landscape, how it's important to have multi-person vehicles, that they talk about the vehicles have been returned to work with the landscape of Infinite. They don't go into much more detail than that. They just say the angle was to give the environmental designers more freedom. Speaking about multi-person vehicles and new ways to traverse the level, I really hope that does mean the Hornet or the Falcon are coming back. I love those vehicles. They're fantastic ways to traverse the environment. You can get a bunch of friends on them to either support you or just do the gunning. They're great vehicles. I think Halo's sandbox has been sorely missing a vehicle like that ever since Halo 4. Despite all of that rambling, I think there was something really interesting that was discussed in an Ask Free for Free, where they talk about new vehicle physics. So for example, if you shoot out a tire on a human vehicle, it'll start to go wonky and you won't have full control of the car. I wonder if that will be carried over to Banished vehicles. Like if you shoot off the wing of a Ghost or a Wraith, will it begin to lean and not be able to speed up properly? I think it's going to add a lot to the vehicle sandbox, and I can't wait to see how it's going to work with all these new and returning vehicles. We actually do get casual confirmation of the Scorpion, but no visuals because, of course, imagine a Halo game without the Scorpion. We get a look at the new Banished Banshees, and they do seem slightly different from Wars 2, but they still retain that Banished look. There's also a new ship in the background. I'm not sure if it's human or banished. I would say from the shape it seems most likely human, but who knows? We don't have a good enough look at it. But speaking of returning vehicles, the chopper is indeed back, lads. You can get a tiny glimpse of it in a screenshot, but there's a better look at it in the Mega Block set. Of course the chopper was coming back. It's the primary vehicle of the Brutes, and it's so much fun. Oh god, I'm genuinely so happy that the chopper's coming back. It's only ever been in Halo 3, it's been in the RTS games, but in an FPS we've only been able to drive the chopper in Halo 3 and I suppose ODST. Getting it back for Infinite is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to see if ramming vehicles will still make them explode violently. This thing is going to be a nightmare potentially. The UNSC, it's kind of weird. We've gotten a lot of info on the gear and the weapons for the UNSC, but literally nothing on the state of the faction. But on the opposite side, we're getting so much info and glimpses onto Banished units, but basically no weapons or gear for them. There is a glimpse of some Marines on the back of a Warthog that you can see here. One passage mentions rescuing Marines from prisons, which I will imagine will be one of the many optional objectives you can do going across this vast, open Halo world. It might be reminiscent of Halo 2, where you have to free Marines from the high charity cells. But besides that, we don't get a lot of talk about the faction and its state. It's sort of being held as a mystery as to what happened to the Infinity and what happened to humanity after Cortana pretty much destroyed everything using her Guardians. The Banished. We actually get quite a few looks at new Banished infantry, one of them being, oh, it's so important. Oh, here comes the Banished Jackal Major! Yeah, there he is. He's red, he's Banished Jackal, he's got a little headpiece that reminds me of CE. There you go, Banished Jackal Major. We actually get another look at a Brute, and he's got a beard, boys. Like I said earlier, they did put hair back on the Brutes, and it seems they're going for a Halo 3 inspired beard, which, absolutely lovely. I can't wait to see if they've got mohawks. I'm pretty happy to see that they're still working on these models, and it'll make them look less dopey and doughy as Craig did. Though apparently Craig will be represented somewhere in the game. I'm not 100% certain where or how, but he's somewhere. This Brute does appear to be carrying an assault rifle, which just further confirms what we've been hearing, that the Brutes will essentially just have access to a wide swath of humanity's arsenal, not just using their shotguns like for some reason in Halo 2. It definitely fits with the Banished, what with them being scavengers. So it looks like a bunch of Brutes could be using human weapons, so who knows, maybe you'll see a Brute with a spanker somewhere. And over in the corner of this screenshot, you can actually see a new type of grunt. The Weapon Carrier, or Weapon Mule. I'm not entirely certain what this rank or type is called. We first get a look at it in the Mega Blocks, and I wasn't certain if this was just going to be a Mega Blocks exclusive sort of infantry unit. But no, it turns out that the Weapon Carrier Grunt is in the game. And I wonder how it's going to work. I wonder if Brutes or Elites can just swap out weapons on the field, or if they're going to be walking around without weapons and they'll run to the Weapon Carrier Grunts to pick them up. Now let's talk about some Banished characters. Besides from Escharum, there I said his name correctly, we actually have a new Banished boss. I'm probably going to get this one wrong now, god damn it. Jega Redomni. He is a Banished Elite Silent Shadow Commander. Now, if you're not 100% certain what the Silent Shadow are, I'm assuming you've never watched a Hidden Xperia video. Essentially, the Silent Shadow were this elite group of Special Operation Elites that had this unique harness, unique energy swords, and they were just the best of the best. They would go out and complete these Black Ops missions. They were just the greatest spies and Spec Ops units the Covenant had access to. During the fall of the Covenant, in one of the comics in Halo Slipspace, it actually turns out that the majority of the Silent Shadow have signed up with Atriox and the Banished, and are now working alongside him. And it turns out that one of their commanders, Jega, is working with the Banished, and oh, I love his armor. It's not really Silent Shadowy, but definitely feels like something a Banished elite would be using. He's also got this really wicked cool red energy sword, and a robot arm. That's really weird. You don't usually see elites with prosthetics. I'm pretty sure that elites would see something like that as a dishonor, but Jega just doesn't give one. He's got himself a big robot arm. I can't wait to see what he does. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a boss character. I'm not sure how bosses will work, but if I'm going to hazard a guess, I would assume it would be similar to Destiny, where you just get random units appearing, and sometimes they'll have health bars above them and little boss names. I'm not too certain. Maybe it'll be like Halo 5 Warzone, which is again very Destiny-ish. So I guess Jega is somewhere around Zeta Halo, and for one mission you will have to go out and kill him. I'm not certain what kind of role he's going to play. I'm not certain if he's important or if he's just an optional objective to go out and go kill Jega. I need to see Jega in a cutscene. He looks so damn cool. But speaking about potential optional Banished bosses, I've only noticed this now that I've been reading Halo Shadows of Reach, but there's a character that's referenced in the books Shadows of Reach that's appeared in the demo for Halo Infinite. You can see the name of this elite in the corner, and I assume you'd have to go and kill him because in the books this elite character is a Silent Shadow operative. So looks like we're getting a pretty big Silent Shadow presence in Halo Infinite, which I'm happy for. I am really happy for. The Silent Shadow have been a thing in the lore since, I think, Reach. They first appeared in this Halo short story that got adapted into an animation, and they had my heart since then. I loved how they looked. They've been here and there in the extended lore since, but since I think Halo Wars 2, they've really started to make a comeback in how they've been mentioned, and now they're in the games. God bless. Jega Redomni, the other one whose name escapes me, we're getting Silent Shadow boss fights. That's all that this can be. Let's talk about Zeta Halo. We get a better look at Forerunner architecture. One image actually shows what looks like a weather station from Halo 2's multiplayer. I'd really like it if they start included, like, the lore from the multiplayer maps that we've had and started putting them into the actual campaign mode. There's plenty of lore, surprisingly, in these multiplayer maps, so they could just slot some looks from the multiplayer into the campaign. You know what? If we saw those massive Guardian spires that we saw in Halo 3, I'd love it. Imagine just entering a new area and you saw those things just standing around you. It would be so ominous, and anyone who's played Halo 3 would lose their mind, I guarantee it. Though, talking about the Forerunner buildings, there doesn't seem to be a lot of variety, which to me feels like a shame. Combat Evolved started with Forerunners having these very silver buildings, but since then we've expanded on their style. Halo 2 had these natural stone monoliths, and Halo 3 had these bronze and gold tunnels and buildings. 343's Forerunners seem to have reverted to their place from Combat Evolved, while also taking away the weathering on their buildings and adding ungodly amounts of floaty bits. Infinite, however, is a step in the right direction, as I think I can see bronze details and highlights on certain areas of Forerunner buildings, but I do wish we could just go back to how things were in Halo 3. But there does seem to be no unnecessary detail and no visible floaty bit. The Halo Infinite Forerunners aren't visually noisy anymore, and the artistic inspiration is clearly from original Halo CE, very silver, but there seems to be bits of 3, like I said, with the bronze, and almost some 4 bits in there, because 4 had these grand, like, massive spectacles. It made the Forerunners seem massive, and there's moments from the Halo Infinite screenshots that I can see moments from the mission of Requiem in Halo 4. Just these monolithic Forerunner structures towering in the distance. But it seems like you can actually maybe go up to them and investigate them in Infinite. We get a look at this Banished building. I like the building. It feels like it fits the Banished, but it needs a bit more red and just extra plating stapled on. That's just the Banished aesthetic from what I've gleaned from Halo Wars 2. Red and just staple on bits of steel. We also get confirmation that there's going to be dynamic weather and a day-night cycle. Another look at these Forerunner towers, which feel as close to looking as Combat Evolved as we've ever gotten in Halo. I think they all look so great. I'm really excited to explore Zeta Halo. And I leave the best for last, and I assume everyone knows what that is, because everyone and their mothers have talked about it. In the background of this screenshot, you can see a Halo-free Guardian Sentinel hologram. And, it's just further proof that we are going back to the visual style and language of the original trilogy, which, thank Christ, like I've said, it's less visually cluttered and more distinct. These Guardians, we never actually got to see them in Halo 3. We only see the concept arts from Halo 3, and I'm pretty sure there is a hologram on the mission epitaph of one of these Guardians. But it looks like they've been carried through to Halo Infinite. I'm not sure if you'll ever actually see them. I really hope you do. There's still this Sentinel from the reveal trailer of Halo Infinite that I'm not 100% certain what it is, but if we get more Sentinel variety, I'd love it. The Sentinels are a completely underappreciated fighting faction, so just giving them more will 100% work for me. I'm trying to think now, have I missed anything? I know that some people have said that you'll be able to connect with friends through Xbox to PC, and you'll even be able to invite friends over Discord, which is something I didn't even know could be done, but apparently it can be done right now. This new armor here is Mark 7. Mark 7 looks wonderful in my opinion. I think it looks like a Bungie armor. I've said about all the new armors in Halo Infinite, I think they look like great additions. They would fit in Halo 3 or Halo Reach. That is what I think 343 should be aiming for. Make sure it looks like it could fit in Halo 3 or Halo Reach. You know what? Just like everything they've done with the art in Halo Infinite, I'm genuinely happy with how this game looks. I keep saying it looks like a classic game, and that's good. It retains the distinct style of Halo without being too cluttered or noisy. You can clearly tell what everything is. It doesn't matter about realism or, oh, this has to look like it could function in the real world. Just make it stylized. Gameplay feels like we're also reverting to that classic Halo with a few 343 isms in there. I know there's sprint, I know there's some clamber and sliding, though they don't seem as ridiculous as it did in Halo 5, and I appreciate them toning that down. I wonder how far it'll go, and I can't wait to get more gameplay, which will be coming soon apparently. I'm actually really excited for Halo Infinite. There is every so often a little piece of news that disappoints me, like no playable elites, no dual wielding, this weird new color scheme, but we always get 2 or 3 or hell 10 good things in return. I think Infinite is shaping up to be a good game. I haven't got any real major complaints as of yet. I think from what we can see, everything has improved drastically since we've seen it from the demo. The level of detail in the environments is absolutely stunning, and like I keep saying, I'm excited for the game. I can't wait for it to come out. Ooh, I can't wait for that gameplay. I can't wait to see how the gameplay has improved. Looking forward to seeing more of that, and thank you all for getting through this. I hope I've covered everything. Hopefully this clears up my list of things to talk about for Halo Infinite until more stuff comes out. Maybe I'll do more of these big videos. Are you more interested in seeing these big videos, or would you rather I do just little content update drops? Leave a comment below, share with me how excited you are for Infinite, or if you have any problems, and let's start a conversation. If you want to get updates on when I'm making these videos or when stuff's coming out, I'm on Twitter, there I am. If you want to follow me there, you'll get those updates. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye!